Can Florida State turn this around? And can Mike Norvell salvage a season that, quite frankly, looks like a disaster?
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith. Thank you to the everydayers that make this a great show. Truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Seminoles football with me. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Today's live show is going to be an opportunity for fans to comment. I already had some comments before I came in here. And quite honestly, it's going to be a chance for me, somebody that is quite fed up with covering a team that looks like it doesn't want to be there, to try to help decipher for you and back and forth. Just, hey, this is a possibility. No, this is a possibility. What should Norvell do? There's going to be a little bit of everything. But I am going to go over defensive stats just to put things in perspective and talk about it from a transfer portal perspective too. Some of these guys that aren't producing were the guys that we in the media thought were going to be good. And we told everybody out there in Seminole Nation that they were going to be good. They were coveted by programs all over the country. So why isn't it working? As somebody once said, it can giveth and taketh away. Well, in this case, the transfer portal, which has been great for Florida State until this year, is now, well, quite frankly, not doing very good with it. So without further ado, I'm going to go over some defensive stats, and I'm going to mention as I go through, just as a reminder, hey, the following players just came in through the portal. This is what's going right. This is what's not. And then I'll break down some other stats. As the chat fills up, I'll go in and I will discuss quite a few things with the questions that you have. Just give me about 5 minutes or so to kind of go through this. Again, I'm using the defense as the barometer here just to keep it on one side of the ball or the other. National stats right now, and I know the Noles have played 2 games, but national stats, rushing defense, they're giving up 226.5 a game. For a reference, last time I checked, that wasn't good, and Georgia Tech, the team I made fun of going into this season, who beat Florida State like a drum up front, they only gave up 221 last year, and they were 131st in the nation. Florida State is not trending well, and the rushing D is at 124th. That's not a good sign. Passing defense isn't terrible. It's 126 yards a game, 37th. But why is that? Tech and BC each just threw it 16 times. Why? Why would you run it any less? They're running it down your throat. They don't have to throw. Florida State's got a good secondary in terms of talent, but they really haven't been tested quite as much as you would think because the other teams haven't had to. Total defense, 352.5. That is 87th in the nation. And scoring defense is 26 points per game, 90th. I will say they've played 2 teams in their conference. They played 2 teams in the Power 4. So it's a little bit skewed in that regard, but that just puts it in perspective defensively. And now we get into specifics. Again, the key here, some of these guys are portal additions that just haven't panned out so far. Marvin Jones has got 2 tackles. He was the guy at Georgia supposed to come in and start. He had led to a good spring, got better. Fall camp, he kept the job, blah, blah, blah. 2 tackles. Cam Riley has been pretty good. He was the guy at Auburn, inside linebacker. But I'll get into more stats with him depending on which site you go by. One site's got him with 13 tackles, another got 17. But at least he's in the starting lineup and he's active. Cam's had a defensive lineman in his lap quite a bit, so we'll see. Devontae Brown played corner at UCF and at Miami. He's playing safety for the Noles. He hasn't had a great start, but he's been around the ball some, 7 tackles. Darrell Jackson had to sit out last year after transferring from Miami. He doesn't have any solos, doesn't have any sacks, but the 330-pounder does have 5 tackles. Earl Little, he came in and won the nickel job. He's got 2 tackles. No picks or anything like that. Here's another stat, like holistically for the defense. Florida State in 2 games, the defense has a grand total of 8 tackles for loss. No linebacker with a tackle for loss versus Boston College either. 0. How is that possible? I mean, they ran the ball all night. It's unbelievable. I purposefully took down the stat box for BC Florida State because it just made me mad. like how bad it was. Every stat I went to, it's like, this is ridiculous. Next stat, this is ridiculous. So it's been crazy. Here's an ironic thing. One of the bright spots for Florida State, at least in spurts, because he doesn't start, is a non-transfer portal player, and that is Daniel Lyons, a kid out of South Florida. He's a Homestead kid just on the edge of Miami. He's had some decent pass rushes. He had a half sack with him and Nicholson against Georgia Tech. He's been active. I think he deserves more play, and that's something we're going to talk about here in a minute. Should some of the guys that are younger get a chance to move up the ladder? I mean, it's not like the majority, at least, of the veterans on really either side, I know I'm focusing on defense, have really done anything. What are we talking about here? Why isn't this better? That's something I'm really curious about. Going around the corner here, a few more stats for you. This is not really a great thing, but if you look at the numbers with Pro Football Focus, and I do have that pulled up. These are just some of the numbers in coverage that they have. Knowles, like he had some good plays. I'm not saying that he's not a guy that can't make big plays. Like he had the big hit, I think it was first play of the game, 71% in coverage. He's been their top guy. Senior, you would expect it. But again, they haven't been tested a lot. But they have some other problems. Like DJ Lundy's a grad student. His pass coverage grade is 28.7%. That is shocking to me. I don't know why, but it's low. Earl Little, another transfer guy, 44.6. Nicholson's inexperienced, 51%. Not shocked. Ventrell Cypress, 53.3. Omar Grant, 54.3. Shaheem Brown, 55. Now, these are subjective that are graded, but I mean, it's not a good sign here. Cam Riley's been burned a couple of times. He's given up 21 yards of reception. Obviously, the big play that Omar gave up, the 42-yarder, that didn't go very well. Linebackers haven't done well in coverage, and they may have impacted some of the things that Norvell and his staff are doing. But again, the portal hasn't been doing anything for Florida State this year, and maybe it's just the law of averages playing out because Florida State just killed it in the portal last year. They were the darlings of the world with it. I mean, DJ comes in this year. We'll talk about him in a minute too. But if you look at the numbers, Florida State, look, there's no way around it. They were the best at mixing the two. So I'm going to ask the question to the chat here, and I'll delve into the chat in a sec. Are they paying guys with NIL? Is there not as much motivation? Did they not come at it with a picky mindset on who to bring in? Just went too much for talent? What does everybody think? Whether you comment in the chat here, watch this show later. I will upload it to all the major platforms. You can get it anywhere that you download it and listen on the go or on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, etc. I'm really curious what people think because there's a lot of it from last night's chat after the game. People talking about, hey, we don't think Florida State picked the right guys. They got a lot of the guys back they had in the portal from the offensive line. They're not developing either. But again, it's something they've talked about. I don't think DJ is a problem child, but he's just not a good fit. That's a whole nother animal. So with that, I'm going to look at the comments here just a little bit to see who's got a few things going on here. Jason Davis. I'm waiting on Scooby and the gang to unmask Norvell and see Willie Taggart smiling back at us. Bro, that is hilarious. Kudos to you for that. Scooby-Doo reference is pretty cool too. All right. Malik Savages. This was funny as a Kane fan. We drained Swamp and Boston College drained Doak Campbell. You really can, I mean, Miami fans can say whatever they want right now because they've actually played well in a game. It is what it is. Oh, wow. Grouch. Colorado dodged an expensive bullet with DJ Lundy coming back to Florida State. Well, I mean, his pass grade is terrible. If you want to complain about DJ Lundy, you can certainly complain about him with regards to that pass grade. He's not covering anybody, according to that. Patrick Payton is overrated, according to Savages. He had a few nice plays, but he hasn't been as effective in the run game in particular, and that is concerning. Florida State has not done anything to show me up front that they would consistently drop the hammer. The first few plays gave me some hope, but then Florida State just kind of got beat on some really close third downs. I was listening to the Nolecast. Bud Elliott was talking about it. It was like insane how crazy close a few of the first downs were for BC. Then they got rolling. I gave them confidence. Florida State didn't get back in on that. I can say that. They stunk. Let's see. Lundy was out of position all game. Is that him or coaching? That's from Grouch. Probably both. He didn't do well positioning-wise, but I also think there was a little concern, put it mildly, with Castellanos. They didn't want him escaping the pocket, and by all means, I get it. He had over 1,100 yards on the ground last year. Very focused young man, very driven, wants to prove people that he can be a quarterback. He threw it okay, too. But except for that deep post, it probably would have been a touchdown if he hit a money ball. He played pretty good in the passing game. We'll see, but DJ's been such a good tackler. I think he was the top guy in the country last year by PFF in one-on-ones. Like, he was legit. So who knows? That is a great question. That is a great question. Did you hear what happened at Friday's practice? If this doesn't tell you a broken locker room and culture, nothing will. I have no idea. Juan Manuel talks about that. If something went wrong, I'm unsure what it was, but I honestly do not know. Florida State, like anybody else, has fights. They have people that don't get along, but to what extent, I don't know, and maybe it's something else. I have not been privy to that information. We shall see, but Florida State, like anybody else, they're going to have a few things that are oddball like that get going. I'm going to do a quick break here, and then just the rest of the show, just going to be questions, commentary, talking about the portal, and I'm ready to talk about some of the younger players. Definitely. Some of the younger players replacing portal, like it's time. With Chrome Hawk, I'm open to all of it after what we just saw. Are you? That's next at Locked On Seminoles. You've heard us talk about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We have something a little different for you now through September 22nd. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need to do is have a Google account, current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Visit FanDuel.com. Download America's #1 sportsbook. All right, let's talk about some of the situation with the portal. Obviously not working like it should this year. Who would you replace? And this is to the chat first. Since you're in here, you get first dibs. What spots would you talk about first? And DJ aside, I mean, I'll get into a whole realm with that for about 10 minutes with DJ. Leave that one out. Besides quarterback, where would you talk about the most likely positions for a change? It could be right guard, it could be offensive. I don't care. I want to hear what the chat has to say. And if you, again, I'm going to download this to all the major platforms. If you can't make the live stream, you want to comment later or come back to another show later on, I'm curious to hear what you have to say. So with that being said, I'm curious, whatever. I have my own thoughts on this. There's a few guys in particular, like Daniel Lyons, who's had a pretty decent start. I think he should get a chance to start in the next game or at least be a co-starter. That's my pick for the record. All right. Let's see. When does free agency start? That's from Joey Tran. I don't know if you call it free agency, but if he's referring to the transfer portal, Joey, the transfer portal is December 9th through January 7th. So we got a little ways to go. Right now, Florida State is about as free agent as it gets because it seems like everybody's an individual and not playing as a team. If that's what you're talking about, then absolutely, it's a problem. I really don't know what to tell you, but I think they got to reevaluate how they take kids out of the portal. There's no doubt. It's unbelievable, the drop-off, isn't it? I mean, think about how many guys they hit on last year. Johnny was a guy came back, but he was a portal guy. Keon killed it. Jaheim was really clutch, especially that Pittsburgh game when Johnny and Keon were out. He was a key part of that. You have all these guys that were transfers up front on the offensive line. They were banged up, but they at least did a good job for the most of the season. Then you look at the defensive side of the ball, obviously Jared Verse. You were waiting on Darrell Jackson, but still you knew he was coming. They had so many guys, and they just developed and did well. Trey Benson was a transfer. He was NFL draft pick. Why has it been so different? It's just bonkers to me. Frankie Biddle says linebacker coach. Well, the linebacker coach, if you want to transfer him out, I think you would be joining a long list of Noles fans. He's not very popular right now. Lundy is killing us on third down. Look, Frank, you're not wrong. I just to get the exact grade, let me pull it back up here. Lundy, oh my gosh, 28.7. That is his pass defense grade. I mean, that is beyond abysmal. It is in the red. When you're in red, that's not good. That's not good. As a matter of fact, I think I can present this. Let me pull this up. And I will share my screen with everybody. I don't know how well this will present, but I'll try to pull up the opportunity with all the things that I have with the coverages and all that stuff. And let's see what happens here. All right. If you go down to the very bottom, look at the red at the bottom. That is Mr. Lundy. I don't know what the deal is, but he's just not very good. Top of the board for them, Noles at 71%, Azariah Thomas, 66.4, Quindarius Jones, 66.2. Same with Cam Riley, which inside linebacker cover. That's pretty impressive. Conrad Hussey, 66, 65.3 for KJ Kirkland. You see a lot of these younger guys here. This is a sign to me that, again, I think Florida State could be in a scenario where they honestly, why not just kind of let it go? It's wild. It's just wild. I'm not sure if Florida State can wait much longer. Memphis, I'm telling y'all now, Seth Hennigan is a real quarterback. If you screw around with him, he will light up Doak Campbell Stadium. He threw for over 3,800 yards last year. I repeat, over 3,800 yards. Oh, man. Let's see. Malik says, y'all should continue recruiting those 6'5" defense receivers. On defense, you get no push on the defensive line. Mike Merrick, if the players want to be better and play better, they will. I believe in the players, and I believe in Coach Norvell handling his business. Mike, I think you're in the minority right now. Not many people believe in Norvell at the moment. I actually think the receivers can be decent if the quarterback is more accurate. That's fair. Larry Bailey, the whole coaching staff except for Norvell. Okay. I'm going to start pulling up some of these, just putting them on the screen. Look, the staff didn't just get bad overnight, but at the same time, you have to be real. Did Florida State have a group of coaches that suddenly got bad at coaching? No. But is there a fit problem? When I was writing down my notes for the game yesterday, and I talked about this on the podcast earlier today too, I did some stuff on the offense. If you want to go back and check that out, I had that up around 5 o'clock. I put first thing when I do a game, first box, I got 4 boxes. First one, top left. First down runs. I want to know how often you do it, who's successful at running the ball. I might put some notes about situation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Florida State had 0 runs yesterday on first down in the first half. And Tofili didn't even have a carry. So if you want to complain about the offensive coaches for one game, I'm all for it. That was bizarre. I don't know about getting rid of everybody, and that's not realistic, obviously. But at the same time, there are bad days for coaches too. Players have bad days. You have a bad day as a driver. You have a bad day as an employee wherever you work. The Florida State can't afford any more bad days because their bad days are embarrassing. You are getting housed by Boston College, Georgia Tech. What happens when you play teams like, I don't know, Miami and Notre Dame on the road, SMU on the road? You got Memphis coming up. Do not discount that. They are not in a position to have any lackluster effort in any way, shape, or form, including the coaching staff. Gulf Coast Seminole. DJ needs to be benched immediately. I don't know if I agree with that, but I will say this, since he brought it up, I'll go into the DJ part of this. And I'm going to pull up DJ's stats on Pro Football Focus and share my screen here in a second. But here's the problem for what I've been understanding. Take this for whatever you want. This probably won't go over very well, but it is what it is. If you look at, how do I put this? The offensive scheme. for lack of a better phrase. Does DJ really fit for Florida State? Probably not. I thought it was a mistake, and I said that as soon as they got him, but I thought he could be serviceable, get you to 7 to 9 wins, somewhere in that range. And then they added other players. We heard some good reports about the freshmen, and I bought in. I said they're going to be 11-1. Obviously, I'm way off on that. They're not sniffing 10 wins this year. That's pretty apparent. But at the same time, I didn't expect him to he had a roll left yesterday. Pretty simple pass, but he had to go against the grain because he's right-handed. Excuse me. And he basically short hopped the ball to the receiver. And it was a rather easy throw. It wasn't much distance. It was like a father throwing ground balls to his son who's trying to play shortstop. And I'm like, Norvell needs, I immediately said, Norvell needs a quarterback that is naturally mobile. He wants to do a lot of things east-west, stress the defense. He's a little bit like Chip Kelly, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's something they got to look at. I just don't think it's something you can do over and over. I'm going to share my screen just to put up DJ stats here, and we'll see what happens with this. I don't know how well y'all can see this, but he's a really talented player for the right offense. I just don't think that Florida State is that offense. Okay, for those you can't see it and you're listening to this podcast, DJ, so far this year is 39-69, 56.5%, 461 yards, a very paltry 6.7 yards per attempt, 1 TD, 1 interception. His offensive grade by PFF is 69.5. His passing grade, very similarly, 69.6. Rushing grade, 59.3. His ball security is pretty good, 72.6. Big time throws, he's got 1 so far, only 1.4% though. That's not good. Turnover worthy plays, 1. It was the pick. And you know what? I mean, he's had 8 drops. That one in particular is concerning. The receivers have stunk in a lot of clutch moments. So Feely had a couple misses too. These are some problems here. So DJ certainly has some issues to deal with. But all right, let's get back into the chat here. Let's see, where were we? This is interesting. Mr. Valentine, no leadership at the quarterback position. I'm curious if you want to expand on this. Mr. Valentine also says this is the negative side effect of the transfer portal. Sometimes it doesn't work. I think it can just go sideways. Maybe that's what we're seeing. I'm guessing. We don't have enough history to come up with a complete notion one way or another. And it might just be very random. Because you're taking a lot of guys, putting them together that used to having success, but maybe had some problems somewhere else. It can get kind of interesting. Let's see. This is an interesting. Frank says, Cam Davis is the only upside I see at running back. I'm not sure why you say that. I'm a big Cam fan. I've talked about that many times here on the pod. I know him from his high school days back to his freshman year. He's a dude. Not debating that at all. He's going to be a national recruit, blah, blah, blah. I knew that was coming. And then like his sophomore year, the offers just went crazy. Alabama, Georgia, Oregon, everybody went after him and ends up going to Florida State, the school he grew up rooting for. But I think a lot of guys have potential in that room. Mekhi Danzy's another guy. It's a freshman kid out of Florida High, very talented. He could be a good player too. But the running back room right now, I don't think it matters because, again, they had 21 yards rushing against BC and only 16 carries, 0 attempts in the first half on a first down run by a running back. Name a team that is a traditional offense in a spread formation that doesn't use their running backs on 1st and 10 to run the ball. Name one. I can't. It doesn't matter who's running if they're not getting the ball. I am puzzled by that. If somebody can definitively explain to me what Norvell and his staff are thinking, I'd love to know.